Hello, everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, I'm bringing you one of the most gripping, unexpected, and deeply satisfying stories you will ever hear. A story that reminds us why you should never judge someone by their uniform, their job, their silence, or by how easy you think they are to intimidate. It all began on a quiet evening in a small bar tucked between two old brick buildings on the edge of town. The kind of place where regulars sit in the same seat every night. The bartender knows every customer by name, and newcomers stand out instantly. The warm lights above the counter flickered softly, bottles shimmered behind the bar, and the air smelled of grilled food and cold beer. But what happened that night transformed the bar into an unforgettable battleground of respect and justice, one that no witness would ever forget. The woman at the center of the story, Mia Turner, was working her shift as a waitress. She moved through the bar with a calm confidence, carrying trays, taking orders, smiling gently at customers who had no idea that behind that quiet presence stood a fighter with an unmatched record. Mia had once been a global sensation, a multi-time MMA world champion known for her precision, her speed, her strategy, and the kind of discipline that made opponents fearful before stepping into the cage. But Mia had chosen to step away from the spotlight, retiring early after a brutal championship match that had nearly cost her a permanent injury. She wanted a break from fame, cameras, pressure, and the constant demand to be invincible. What she wanted most was peace. She found it in small places like this bar, far away from arenas and screaming crowds. Working there gave her a normal life again, something she hadn't felt in years. No one at the bar knew who she was, and Mia preferred it that way. But that night, 3 men walked through the doors, and their energy changed everything instantly. They were loud, stumbling slightly, full of cheap confidence and the kind of arrogance that grew with every drink they consumed. They chose a table near the center of the room and immediately began making comments, complaining about the lighting, the music, the seating, the service, anything they could think of to assert dominance. Their voices floated through the room, echoing in the uncomfortable silence around them. People glanced their way and then looked down quickly, not wanting trouble. Bullying was something they enjoyed. Power, even imagined power, was their addiction. When Mia approached them with a polite smile, asking if they wanted to order, they exchanged glances and grinned the way predators do when they think they've found easy prey. One of the men leaned back, staring at her with narrowed, disrespectful eyes, and said something mocking about her job, her uniform, and how someone like her must deal with people like them all the time. Mia didn't flinch. She had heard far worse in her career from opponents, from crowds, from moments before stepping into the cage. Instead, she took their orders and walked away calmly, ignoring their attempts to provoke her. She didn't want a scene. She didn't want attention. She simply wanted to finish her shift. But bullies don't stop when you ignore them. They escalate. Each time Mia passed their table, they tried harder. Insults disguised as jokes, comments thrown loudly enough for everyone around them to hear, mocking her posture, her height, her voice. People in the bar grew increasingly uncomfortable. The bartender shot Mia worried glances, quietly asking if she wanted him to step in, but she refused. She wasn't afraid of them. She simply didn't want to disrupt the peace she'd built for herself. But there comes a moment when silence is no longer strength. There comes a moment when disrespect becomes dangerous. The turning point came when Mia returned to their table with their second round of drinks. One of the men intentionally stretched his foot out just enough to trip her. The tray tilted, drinks toppled, and glasses shattered against the floor. The bar went silent as the liquid spread across the wood like a shining warning. Mia could have regained her balance, any fighter would, but she chose not to. She let the drinks spill so that everyone could see exactly what had happened. She straightened slowly, and instead of embarrassment, there was a look in her eyes that no one in the room had seen from her before. A controlled storm. The man who tripped her started laughing, clapping mockingly, enjoying what he believed was her humiliation. Another leaned forward and said something filthy, something he thought was clever, something that made several customers gasp. Mia looked at the spill, then at the men, then at the ruined glasses. She took a slow breath, the kind fighters take before stepping into the cage, the breath that centers the soul. She knelt to pick up the pieces, but the man put a foot on her hand, pinning it lightly, arrogantly, as though she were nothing. That was his mistake. Mia rose, her expression unchanged, but her posture entirely different. She stood tall, shoulders relaxed, weight balanced perfectly. The entire bar sensed the shift. Even the bullies hesitated for a split second, sensing something they couldn't understand. Mia quietly asked the man to remove his foot. He smirked and refused. That was when she decided enough was enough. Within the next second, she moved with a speed so sharp and sudden that none of them could process what happened. She stepped aside, hooked her arm around the man's, twisted it gently but firmly, and guided him to the ground in a controlled motion that looked like a dance but hit with the force of absolute mastery. He fell with a stunned cry, clutching his arm in shock. Before the other two could stand, she pivoted smoothly, disarming a punch thrown drunkenly by the second man, redirecting his momentum so he stumbled face first into the table behind him. The third lunged at her and she defended effortlessly, using only technique. No unnecessary force, no anger, no chaos. She simply neutralized each threat with precision. The entire bar was frozen. They weren't watching a fight. They were witnessing poetry made of discipline. Mia didn't throw wild punches. She didn't hit to hurt. She controlled. She redirected. She dismantled their arrogance with movements so clean and practiced that every spectator realized instantly that this woman was not normal, not average, not someone to underestimate. The bullies, now trembling and disoriented, struggled to rise, but their confidence had evaporated. Mia looked at them calmly, as though she hadn't just taken down 3 grown men in under 30 seconds. With a firm voice, she told them they needed to leave. No yelling, no insults, just controlled authority. When they hesitated, still processing the humiliation, she added one more sentence that chilled them more than any punch could have. She told them she knew exactly how to break every bone in their hands without leaving a single visible bruise. That was enough. They scrambled toward the door, stumbling over each other, desperate to escape. The bar erupted into applause. The bartender stared at Mia with wide eyes and whispered, "Who are you?" And for the first time, Mia smiled fully. She didn't reveal everything. She didn't need to. She simply said she used to fight a little long ago, but someone at the bar recognized her, an older man who had once followed him, passionately. He stepped forward and said her full name with awe. The room fell silent again as everyone realized who had been serving them drinks for months. Mia Turner, the undefeated world champion, the legend who had vanished from the public eye, had been quietly carrying plates and taking orders among them. And instead of bragging, instead of flaunting her title, she had chosen humility. The story of that night spread quickly across town. People who had been afraid of the bullies felt empowered. Those who witnessed Mia's strength gained a new understanding of respect. The regulars at the bar treated her with a deeper admiration, not because she was a fighter, but because she carried her power with restraint, honor, and quiet integrity. And Mia, for the first time in a long time, felt something she had missed in the world of professional fighting. She felt seen for who she was, not for what she could do in a cage. Her identity wasn't defined by a title, it was defined by her character. The bullies never returned. Word of what happened became a lesson shared repeatedly in the area. People began to tell the story of the waitress who took down 3 troublemakers without raising her voice. It became a reminder that true strength doesn't announce itself. It reveals itself only when necessary. And as for Mia, she continued working at the bar, but with a newfound sense of peace. She understood that no matter where life took her, no matter how far from the arena she traveled, the discipline, respect, and courage she learned in her fighting years would always stay with her. In the weeks that followed, more people came to the bar hoping to meet the legendary champion. Some wanted autographs, others wanted advice, some wanted photos. Mia accepted it all graciously, but she kept reminding them that real strength isn't about beating someone, it's about knowing when not to. She became a quiet inspiration to everyone around her. Some customers even began taking self-defense classes because of her. Parents brought their teenagers to meet her, hoping they'd understand the importance of confidence without cruelty. And every time someone asked how she stayed so calm during the harassment, Mia had the same answer. She said that true power comes from knowing who you are and never letting bullies define you. Her story became a living lesson that traveled far beyond the walls of that small bar. It sparked conversations about humility, respect, and the unseen strength within ordinary people. And even though Mia had once fought in arenas under bright lights, she realized that perhaps her greatest victory happened on an ordinary night, in an ordinary place, working an ordinary job. She showed the world that greatness doesn't disappear just because the cameras do. It lives quietly inside those who choose discipline over ego, control over chaos, and dignity over violence. That night in the bar didn't just expose 3 bullies. It revealed a quiet hero who reminded everyone that courage doesn't roar, it stands silently, waiting for the right moment to rise. And when it does, the world remembers. If you want the title, description, keywords, tags, and image prompts, just tell me and I'll generate them.